Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Dirt 3. Let's continue. Just trying to race through all of this. I guess that's the ultimate irony about this game, is that it's drug on and had so many races. And it's gone on for so many hours
and push the car to its limits.
that
go show 'em what you got.
I'm actually racing through the races, trying to just get done with the game. I guess I do a lot of racing in my career as a YouTube video game critic, in the sense that there's many times when I'm trying to just be finished with something as fast as possible, but I just jump right through all of that. Hey, look at this! I'm getting a little bit of extra points. There. I'm at 7. I'm trying to smash into as many things as possible. I'm losing a little bit of momentum here. A little bit of a drift in the drift zones are the only time we can drift. Let's see. I'm not hitting anything or doing anything, so we're wasting our time. So we're already done, but I find it most helpful, or I assume it's most helpful, to drive around and hit the bricks, because the smash targets are so incredibly easy compared to any other trick. This is clearly the one to do if you were going to try to get over 200,000 points, because I got 193,000 points right there. And there's an achievement for getting a certain high score, but I don't know what it is. Whether it's 200,000, 250,000, a million. A million might be a little bit difficult for... It'll be difficult for most players, I think, but if they even made it this far, this is probably the last race like this in the entire game. If not, maybe the second to last. And we have the pier that he's parked in that never gets used in an actual race. But I guess that's fine. Yeah. I've got to hit as many things as possible. And try to be as quick about this as possible. And don't try to do donuts. Don't try to do anything special. Just get as many of the smashes out of the way. A little bit of drifting slows me down though. And that bumper is hanging on by a thread. And we're in first position, so we don't really need to worry too much more. A little bit of a drift, didn't even mean to pull that off. The tiny circle here is probably a more difficult donut, because you've really got to get it going good. Moving forward. I wonder how many other games are out there that have just incredibly long amounts of load times that are hidden very well. It's an easy thing to hide and make unobvious. and this game certainly has failed to hide it enough. But I suppose at a certain level you have to define what is an actual loading screen, though, because if there's some action happening but the game is always loading something, that's just a modern video game. But if the game is constantly giving you and see, I'm getting that excitement up there. Let's see if we can increase it to a 3. I think I did a donut, and so my excitement meter doesn't go up. And see, I'm doing everything to keep my excitement meter up, but it fell back down. So I got to a multiplication of 3. That was nice. I guess you don't get very much excitement from smashing, though. I still have 7 seconds. Let's move forward. I believe having won first for the first 3 of 4 races, I'm probably already guaranteed a victory. If I podium at all, a platform, if I make it even to 4th place. We should look at the standings and see. Let's see. I have 30 points, so somebody would have to get 6 points to beat me, and that would have to be Ken Block would need actually 7 points, which means he needs to get 2nd place, and I would have to get 0, which doesn't happen apparently because you at least get 1, so he'd have to get 2nd place. Well, wait a minute. If he gets 2nd place, he'll get 8. That makes it 32. If I got 8th place, I would be at 31, so that I'd get 2nd place there. That's the worst place scenario. Worst case scenario. Anything else, like if Tanner Faust, who's in the 3rd position, got 1st place and got 10, he'd be at 28. I'd still get 1st place. It's only Ken Block who, if he gets 1st place, he'd get 10. That'd be 34 against my 31. So it's literally just a race against Ken Block. And not getting 8th position. If I got anything above 8th position, I would still win. I don't want to do any crazy tricks here. I'd prefer to just smash and hit everything I can. Now. We'll go ahead and slide here. Hit this. Hit this. Hit this. We're in 4th position right now. How much time do we have? Interesting, a little jump there. Well, how do you get to that? Oh, you can't. That's just where we started. And the road is raised. Why would the road be raised? And with that one doing that, we'll Yeah, I guess the only way you could raise a road is you'd have to put a ramp in it.
Those donuts were off the hook, amigo. Did you hear how loud the crowd was cheering for you?
Forget about the crowd. Right now, all that matters is what's happening on the track. Now stay focused.
Stay focused on what? We're done with that race. That's just oddly out of place. And more rep that's doing nothing for us. So that saved us. We already did the Gymkhana sprint and realized we couldn't do that. So final showdown time. 8 laps, 1 race. Interesting. Is that all it's going to be? It's just a simple position race. No knockouts, nothing.
You've dominated
bet there's
Rallycross
more.
races so far, but keep focused. The competition will be looking for an opportunity to take advantage.
And see, the weirdest race we've even had in this game is when we were racing against the bobsledder. And there was an achievement for that. And that's kind of all this game has for specialty races, besides the Gymkhana specialty races, which I don't like and aren't really races as much as just tricky maneuvers. It would be interesting if there was a game that came out and said, we're going to make this car game about doing tricks and drifting and all of that, and it's going to have 0 races in it at all. It'd be an interesting just stubbornness to drifts and donuts and slides and things. And I just don't know how many things you can even really do with a car that is that interesting. I think what you quickly have to get into is the monster truck style of racing, the monster truck style of shows where you have these giant monster trucks with huge wheels that are rolling over and looking like they're gonna flip, and they can do some tricks on that. But with a regular car, you pretty much only have drifts, donuts, jumps, spins. That's kind of it, as far as I can think. Maybe you could go, if you could measure hydroplaning, if you could measure sliding while going forward, that might be a cool thing to try to pull off, but not really. It probably wouldn't look that cool. So even if you were gonna try to make a game focused on doing tricks, it's not gonna work well. As I suppose you get down to something like those bridge construction games where you build crazy bridges and cars drive through them, and sometimes you can build loops for cars to drive through them. Yeah, if you went down to like a Hot Wheels style track builder and that was a major part of your game, then you could build some loop-to-loop tracks and have races do some crazy things like that. There is a game like that. What is that called? Cars Universe, Cars Planet. I forget what it's called. But there is a level editing game out there where you can have cars go and change their orientations and rotate and move really fast, and they may sometimes you'll see videos online of people making tracks where you just press forward or don't press anything and the track itself propels you, and it makes you look like you're doing something really amazing when really you're more on the treadmill. Come to think of it, this game would have not suffered if it had a track editor. Even if it was just something like Snap Map, where you could just snap certain parts of tracks to other parts of tracks, it wouldn't be awful. And how difficult would it really be to draw a line in the area and just connect one to the other? And clearly, since this is a rally car race, they already broke up the laps into specific sections, the tracks into specific sections, so if there was an area to move them around, you could at least have some customization there. Not that that would really help unless you could add some crazy things like loops or major jumps. We haven't seen any real loops or major jumps at all in this game because they're committed to being realistic and overly committed to being realistic for a video game. And it ends up with you seeing that seeing the jumps that you do in the Gymkhana are very, very small jumps. They would certainly hurt in the real world if you did even a small jump in a car. That could be painful and dangerous, but it's not what you expect in the video game world, because we see car jumps that are like 40 feet in the air all the time. It's just what we see in games, it's what we see in TV, it's what we see in movies. I ran into an interesting news story as part of my Hearthstone playthrough, which is my my blog series. I talk about what's going on in the video game industry and what's going on in my life, if there's anything actually going on in my life, which rarely there is, other than just recording games. I came across a story about a company called .emu, D-O-T-E-M-U, I believe, and I was looking at their logo, and it's the exact reverse flip of the Codemasters logo, and that's rather strange, but I don't know if there's a story behind it or if it's just a coincidence. It could be a coincidence. But the story that was about them is that they had their own store like Steam to sell their games, and they decided to stop using that storefront because it was just not worth their time. It seems like they've only got about 10 games they made in total. And they certainly weren't really competing with the world, because I'd never heard of them. I had to go look up to see if they'd even made any games worth mentioning, and they barely do. They're mostly doing older games, or Metal Slug is one of their games, and that's kind of it. There's one other game that they did, or published, or designed, but didn't publish. Yes, it's always weird talking about current events on my Hearthstone series, considering it's recorded in advance. I'm trying to figure out a way to stop it from being recorded in advance while still having consistent episodes air, and I've yet to find a way to guarantee that both those things happen, and I don't also lose all the footage that I've already recorded. In position 1 in lap 8, and I mostly was able to yammer on long enough to go through this full race. I thought that was the end. Interesting. Now we're at the end. It doesn't even bother saying first. I wonder if there were audio cues in there originally, and it was just found to be annoying. I bet there wasn't. I bet they're just trying to do an artistic style here, where they play sounds in the background instead of having dialogue play. Because we hear in the menus a lot of sounds and sound effects. They're very, very proud of these sound effects.
You passed half the cars in the field last time out. I'd say you've definitely got what it takes to go all the way.
I passed all the cars in the field last time out, didn't I? Did I not start in 8th position? Let's just keep on churning. The final was actually really short. They apparently were throwing us a bone there. That was just one race. Why not have all the finals and all the races that be that short? I imagine what they realized in game testing is that the final for this section should be short because the final tournaments are going to be almost certainly incredibly long. Maybe they should have just unlocked the tournaments really, really early and allowed the player to see if they could tackle them and get first place on the first try. That would be an interesting way to do it. And what you could do is try to teach the player that they're not actually capable of finishing the tournaments on the first round. But this would be hard to actually have that happen. And then every time they try and fail, they are then pushed into doing lower class races to work their way up to the skills needed for the final race. Kind of like if the final tournaments were a very powerful boss enemy and you have to grind and get better before you go and fight them. Although you don't, although the game doesn't force you to do that. Sometimes some games don't force you to do it. Where that might be more appealing and allow more players to feel like they've finished the game, even if they didn't do every single small thing. This is an interesting angle there because you never get to see the bridge from that angle. So that's like new animation right there. Why is a truck parked backwards on the side of the road? It's just parked there. Interesting. And it's still there. Interesting. So this is that same bridge, but from the road, it doesn't look like much of anything. The game would have done well to have a camera flying around the area, showing you different angles and areas that they designed. Although they wasted their energy if they designed much of the path off the road, which they kind of didn't do that. They mostly keep everything in the areas you're most likely to see, and then hide everything else behind trees or darkness. So now racing. Although this is just a rally race again, so passing people doesn't really guarantee a change in position. Although it very well might actually if you pass somebody, because it means somebody else is going slower than you and you're going faster than somebody else, which guarantees that you would change your position. It doesn't mean you'll be in first, but you will be at least one increment higher. Seems like I may hit that sign more often than a lot of the other ones. It seems like there might be a dark cloud in the sky that looks like maybe a tornado or a hurricane, but I don't think so. And we're having the audio. Somebody broke down there. You can see the X. That very rarely happens in the game. It should happen more often since it's a feature that's underused. But yeah, you hear a lot of people start to say something and then it just kind of goes away by the time you're far enough away anyways. So I hear people saying you and and it's said in a way I imagine so that it could sound like you're the best or you're the worst. And again, I have no clue if you would actually be able to hear any of that if you were driving. So, did I win? I don't think so. I think we have 2 more races to do, don't we? Did I just plow through all of that? I know I'm trying to do that. It's almost better as a screensaver, isn't it? If you just had a bunch of scenic vistas with cars in front of them as a screensaver and you needed a screensaver in your life for some reason, I wouldn't be opposed to using an app like this to do something like that versus actually playing the game. Alright, well, that's another recording, so as always, we ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.